by John Ransom. I fear the havoc inflation will inflict on America in the next year. Prices are rising at levels not seen for 40 years. Piled on top of the pandemic, racial tensions, and bitter political divisions, and America could be in for a lot of social unrest. Even as the U.S. reels under the assault of the O variant that has pushed CV cases to record levels, Americans aren't worried so much about their health as they're about their pocketbooks as inflation surges. Ezekiel chapter 7 verse 19. They shall cast their silver in the streets, and their gold shall be removed. Their silver and their gold shall not be able to deliver them in the day of the wrath of the Lord Yahweh. They shall not satisfy their souls, neither fill their bowels, because it is the stumbling block of their iniquity. Shalom, all praises, blessings, glories, and honors be unto Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai Bahashim, Racha Kodash. Double honors to my apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who have taught me this truth, as well as men of like mind. Shalom wa chasad to the elect of the nation of Israel, whom are you so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and Israelite foreigners of the seed line of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whom are scattered here in America, which is Babylon the Great, and abroad. To you I say Shalom, and Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shara. Desire this lesson is edifying and informative. Again, this is from the RT by John Ransom. I fear the havoc inflation will inflict on America in the next year. Now, what is inflation? Inflation, to those out there that do not know, is the expansion of the money supply in a country's economy. And there is an excessive quantity of fiat, which means faith-based money, is floating around in excess, but there is no demand to offset that justification, and that is inflation. And hyperinflation is the mature level of inflation, when there is an extreme and excessive expansion of money supply in an economy due to factors, for example, such as supply chain bottlenecks. There is so much money floating around in the economy with little to no demand to offset such justification. In more simple words, it's basically a whole lot of money with pretty much no demand. It's as simple as that. And so now let's read on. Prices are rising at levels not seen for 40 years. Pile that on top of the pandemic, racial tensions and bitter political divisions, and America could be in for a lot of social unrest. And America is, in fact, on the course of seeing unprecedented social unrest by reason of Jacob's trouble. And according to the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 15, verse 16, It reads, "For there shall be sedition." And what is sedition? Unlawful insurrection or insurrection against lawful authority among men and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Why? Because people are going to be pushed to the extreme. Many will despair and bug out by reason of the things that the Lord is going to bring upon the world and upon this land in particular. Many great miseries draws nigh, many days of sorrows and death and mourning and sedition draws nigh. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. Nobody's going to think twice to listen to their local authorities, whether it be their mayors, their governors, or the state leaders, and all the way up to their presidents. They're not going to listen to any of that. And the course of their actions shall stand in their power. Why? Because people are going to take things into their own hands. It's going to be like the road in the book of Eli, and I am legend out here. See, things are happening, but the worst is yet to come. A man shall have desire to go into a city and shall not be able. Why? Because the cities are going to be closed by reason of the bridges being opened, meaning that they're going to be opened up into the sky. They're going to be elevated, so no person is going to be able to go into a city or leave. Likewise for a tongue, you're going to have troops blocking off gates and bridges and communities, and that's when people are going to start taking things into their own hands. The love of many at that time are going to wax cold. For because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled. The houses shall be destroyed. Why are the cities going to be troubled? Because people are going to be afraid. They're going to despair. And they're going to bug out and then take actions into their own hands. The houses shall be destroyed and men shall be afraid. Man shall have no pity upon his neighbor. Why is that? Because iniquity is going to be abounding, and therefore the love of many is going to be waxing cold. It's going to be like Bushwick. I suggest you check that movie out if you haven't seen it before. But shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods, meaning to take their goods, take all that they have, whether it be their clothing, their food, their homes, supplies, because of the lack of bread. Why? Because there's going to be a famine. And when there's inflation, that also leads to a famine, because now the money is worthless, because there's an excessive supply of it floating around in the economy, and there's no demand to offset such justifications. I suggest you, brothers and few sisters, watch guys like Peter Schiff, because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. So there's great tribulation that's going to come upon this world, man. It's coming, all right. And that's what the Lord said. They're going to cast their gold and silver in the streets, because it's going to become worthless. It's going to become useless. Money is going to become like toilet paper. It's going to become like the Weimar Republic. In fact, it's going to be worse. It's going to be worse than the Weimar Republic, the Great Depression, and previous recessions combined that has ever happened in history. They won't show away the money, by to all my Benjamites out there. God, money not gonna be of any use. That's why we lay up. We of the hopefully elect, laws, but I'm of the elect. We lay up spiritual wealth, spiritual riches. A December survey of voters revealed that 68% of Americans mentioned the economy, as one of their top concerns, while only 37% named CV. That's because inflation-wise, you have to look way back to 1982 to find prices rising as high as persistently as in December of 2021. Another good indication of inflation is CPI. CPI stands for Consumer Price Index. The higher the CPI, the higher is inflation. Now, some economists might say that right now the economy is experiencing deflation, while some might say it's experiencing inflation. But the reason why they might be saying that is because for those that do say deflation is because of low money velocity. You got Satan coming out of here. Low money velocity, because all the money that the government is giving the people, they're not spending that money, and if they do have to use that money, is to pay back creditors such as banks, debtors. So they're not buying and spending as much. So at times you might see a depreciation in the CPI, which might cause or show signs of a deflationary economy. But this is just another topic for another time. The point is that right now we are experiencing inflation, and these lessons are important because it's all a part of prophecy. Okay, it says that's because inflation-wise, you have to look way back to 1982 to find prices rising as high and as persistently as in December of 2021. And the Most High is, ultimately working. He's putting it in the minds of these devils to keep on printing all this money. While all this stuff is going on, it's ultimately to destroy the economy. Because in order for them to fully go full throttle with their New World Order, they have to crash the economy and introduce a one world, a digital form of currency that will be centralized. Okay, and then, or they might just have it branched out and overseen by different central authorities. A good example of that is the Chinese yuan. Okay. It says, according to government data released this week, its inflation jumped at its fastest pace in nearly 40 years last month. Why? Because of excessive money printing. All this money is going around, but there's no work being done to justify all this money floating around in the economy. Because work produces, your different goods and services that the country then sells to other international consumers. Hence the reason why you might see a country's GDP go up, because there's people working. But if nobody's working, but all this money is coming out of nowhere, then what is that going to cause? Inflation, which again is the expansion of a country's money supply, economy's money supply. A 7% spike from a year earlier that is increasing household expenses, eating into wage gains, and heaping pressure on President Joe Biden. I'm going to read that again. Inflation jumped at its fastest pace in nearly 40 years last month. And, Lord, one of you brothers and a few sisters have been following along. I know this sort of lesson could be technical sometimes, but it's important for all of us to understand, these different jarrons and terms that Esau uses. Said the Associated Press, a 7% spike from a year earlier that is increasing household expenses, eating into wage gains and heaping pressure on President Joe Biden. That's why people, when they go to the store, things are expensive. They see things that are expensive. You know, a couple of years ago, shit was cheap. Now it's expensive. The price pressure is across the board too. It's not just confined to things that need computer chips to operate, right? Because there are many different sectors out there that are experiencing acid inflation ultimately. But very soon we're going to start seeing hyperinflation. The worst is yet to come. So I'll leave the link to this article, Lord's willing, in the description box of this lesson. I'll read Ezekiel chapter 7, verse 5 and close the lesson, Lord's willing. Again, Ezekiel chapter 7, verse 5, not 5, verse 19, they shall cast their silver in the streets, and their gold shall be removed. Their silver and their gold shall not be able to deliver them in the day of the wrath of the Lord Yahweh. They shall not satisfy their souls, neither fill their bowels, because it is a stumbling block of their iniquity. So all you jakes out there that you love to live your luxurious lifestyles, especially Eve. You've got to have the nails done and the eye lashes done, the hair done and all that stuff. When they're gonna start seeing all that stuff skyrocket in price, and what are they gonna do? Now, Spirit had me mention verse 5. Let's read verse 5. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh power, and evil, and only evil, behold, is come. So evil is coming. Evil is coming, and it's going to catch 2/3 of the nation of Israel off guard. So, hey, man, with that, pray this lesson was edifying, informative to the elect. Shalom.